Kia ora, welcome back to Hunter's Help. We are now on the final video. So our next topic will be halls. So this is going to look at whether or not you should go, what to expect, and the different options you have at the different universities. So many questions are going to be popping into your head right now if you're considering going into halls at the universities you're applying for. So the first question is, should I even go to halls? I was really conflicted. I lived 10 minutes down the road from the university. So I thought, because they are expensive, what a waste of money and a waste of, effort. Should I really bother? I talked to a few friends and they just said you have to go. I decided to listen to their advice and I'm so glad I did. I made my bestest friends in halls. I am so close with them to this day. We catch up all the time. We're always messaging. I think, especially now that classes, a lot of them can be done online, less connections are made in a classroom. Not none, but just less. And so I think a lot of those friendships are cultivated in that hall environment. You have such a fun year, and I think it's a really great in-between finishing high school and then becoming an adult. So you still have that freedom and independence, but you get wrapped in that support. And I think that's really valuable, especially when you've got the stress of everything that comes with university life. So do you do catered or uncatered? So a lot of people who do uncatered are second, third year or postgraduate students. A lot of the catered are first year, I would say almost all of them, and almost all first years do the catered halls. I was an incredibly fussy vegan. I was not interested in having someone else cook for me, but someone told me that info and I decided to go into the catered, and I'm so glad that I did. You meet so many people in the dining room and just the lifestyle. And as I said before, university, it's a lot in your first year. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to learn. Taking away the issue of sorting your meals each week make a huge difference. And so question 3, what type of floors are there? So when you apply, they're going to give you some different options. So firstly, you have girls only or you have mixed floors. So I do apologize, boys, you do have to have a mixed floor. I'm sure you're very disappointed. For girls, if you prefer to be on a girls only floor, absolutely fine. I went on a mixed floor. I felt super duper safe. They've got really great regulations in place, but if a girls only floor is going to make you feel more comfortable, absolutely go for that. It's not going to diminish your experience in halls at all. The only other option you have is an alcohol-free or an alcohol-friendly floor. For those of you who are under 18 when you go to university, you will have to do the alcohol-free floor. So what that means is you cannot have alcohol on that floor at all. If you're caught with it, you will be fined. You can have alcohol on a different floor. So you yourself as a person isn't banned from alcohol, but your floor is. So it's sort of like a safe haven, I suppose. I personally don't drink a lot. I went on the alcohol-friendly floor and I had a ball of a time, and no judgment or anything like that from anyone, but you'll have a great experience on either floor. So just do what suits you the best. And then question 4, what are the rooms like? I really recommend going to some open days, having a look at the halls. I remember being really shocked. Me and my dad were walking down this little narrow corridor, and then we turned into my room and it looked like a prison cell and the whole thing. It was a lot. They are really small. You've got a desk, a bed, and that's pretty much it. But you spend so much of your time in the common rooms or studying on campus because you're already on campus, so you just go to the library. Not something to be concerned about, but it is just good to know what you're expecting and what you're walking into so you know how to pack and prepare. Alright, so we're going to start with the University of Auckland. So what I'm going to do is just give you some ideas on what to expect. Now, what I want you to take note of is how much you're having to pay before you arrive. Now, I told you guys in the Hunter's Help video on student loans that you get $323 at this point from your student loan. Now, what you're going to notice is every single hall in New Zealand is more than that. So you are having to cover a certain amount each week, and you're also having to pay your deposit before you arrive. Another thing to consider is often you'll be paying for halls before the student loan comes in. So again, you've got to cover a few weeks yourself. This is just something to consider. I think it can be quite a stressful thing to realize. I know a lot of us think that the student loan is going to cover everything. Sadly, at this point, it doesn't. So yeah, just to be aware, have those chats with your whānau, and make some plans. For those of you who completely panic in terms of options, obviously you've got scholarships, you've got student loan allowances, and the other thing to consider is doing a gap year. There is absolutely no issue in that. In my floor at university, the majority of the students there had taken a year off. So there was only a few of us who were actually 18. Every single person who did a gap year, they were coming in with more maturity, more excitement, and more money. So that is definitely an option for some of you who might say maybe it's a little bit unrealistic at this point, or you'd like to go in with a little bit more of a backup fund before you start rather than straining for that. So just something to think about. All right, so back to the University of Auckland. So open around August, end in September for the applications. So when you accept your agreement, you're paying around $1,000. So that can be quite a shock. And then you typically pay your first 4 weeks before arrival. And I'll show you how much that is on the next page. So we're looking at around $510 a week. So that is approximately for your deposit, $2,000. So you're paying $1,000 and then $2,000 before you even start paying the $510. So it is expensive. And I think it's not advertised enough, the difference between your student loan and how much you're having to fork out yourself. So, you're looking at an extra $200 a week, which is a lot. It's why a lot of us work during university, or, why we have such big holidays. It gives you a really good opportunity to get some money in the bank before you go back to university. All right, the University of Waikato. So they open in August, close in September. You pick your top 2 halls. As you can see there, the move-in costs are approximately $2,300 or $2,600. So that's before you move in. Again, can become quite a shock. I know, again, not much advertising is done about this. I just got a bill in January and had to go to my parents, and we had to have a sit down and work out what we were going to do because I had no idea that I even had to pay that. So yeah, just keep it in mind and create those plans early because it just takes away that stress. And then one of the cheaper halls in New Zealand, but they are going up each year. So it's, around that $430 to $490 for 2026 at this point as an estimate. But again, they often do increase each year. I did College Hall. I loved it. To be honest with you, you're going to have a great time in any hall you go to. Just have a little read through, see which one suits your vibe, and yeah, just give it your best guess. Massey University. So you say what kind of accommodation you would like. So for instance, catered, non-catered, mixed, female only, alcohol, yes, no. You answer some personality-based questions, and then they put you in a hall. So you don't actually pick your preference. The halls are approximately $18,000. The deposit is $2,700. And then when you accept the offer, on top of that, it's $750. Again, it adds up. So, you're looking at least $3,500 before you've even started. It's approximately $450 a week, so a bit cheaper than those from Auckland University, but still a lot more than, at least over $100 than a student loan. All right, and then we've got Victoria University. So they open in August. The initial deposit is $1,000, and then typically for this one, you pay per month. So you're needing to have that in advance. So, you've got the different options there. You're looking at around $450 to $530 per week. I asked a girl what she reckoned in terms of what hall to pick at Victoria, because there's there's heaps of options at university. She said Te Puni Village is not up the biggest hill you've ever seen. I thought she was being a little bit dramatic. I said, surely walking up a hill can't be that bad. She reckons it's big enough that, people catch Ubers up it. So keep that in mind, do with that information what you will. But again, yeah, have a look through, maybe go to some open days if it's possible, just to get a look at what you might prefer. And then obviously take those costs into account too. All right, University of Canterbury. So the applications open in August for the February 2026. You fill out a form on the website and you choose your top 3 halls. Now, Canterbury is a little bit different with their halls. So R&R and College House, they are the fancy halls. So that might be for you. Again, have a look on their website, see if it's something that might be up your alley. If they are your preference, make sure they're first, otherwise you won't be considered. We will look at the prices on the next page. So the payment when you accept the offer around that grand mark. Now their payments are very different. So those of you considering Canterbury University, please be aware of this. So you're typically paying in 3 payments. So you're paying $10,000 on average before you even go down there. Now, that's a huge shock. And obviously for those of you hopefully watching this in year 12, this is a really good time to understand that that's the kind of money you're going to need to save up. You then pay, typically 2 more installments. So just something to be aware of, but you are paying quite a large chunk before you even get down there. All right, and then finally we have the University of Otago. So we have approximately 14 different halls to choose from. They cost around $19,000 to $21,000, and you've got 3 different options. So sort of similar to Canterbury. So we've got a lump sum. Those of you who can do that, congratulations. I'm sure the majority of us are unfortunately not able to do that. 2, you've got 4 different installments of approximately like $4,000 to $5,000 a week for the first payment. So that's another option. Or 3, you've got a down payment of approximately $10,000 to $11,000, then followed by weekly payments. So again, you are having to pay, that quite a large sum up front, and those, that third option does give you the option to potentially pay via student loan because that amount will be less, but you will need quite a lot of money to begin with. Again, now this is not meant to scare you. I know it can be really stressful. I promise you halls are an incredible experience. A lot of us have gone through these struggles and we have made it through the other side. But I do think it's really important that you know about the cost barriers, because they can be barriers. So just be aware, have those discussions with your whānau and friends, and make those plans for your future. Best of luck with your university applications, your scholarship applications, and your hall applications. Make sure you get onto those student loans. And thank you very much for watching Hunter's Help. Ka kite.